Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Golf Committee for October the 8th, 2024. First item of business is the roll call. Jeff Converse. John Cookson.
Present.
Keith Hochstein, present. Suzanne Connolly. Mark Bushway.
Present.
Bill Silva.
Present.
Jason Orby. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30, Section 20, I have to inquire if anyone is taping this meeting. Seeing none, I would also like to announce that this meeting will be televised live via Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072, and it also may be accessed via the Government Access Channel live stream on the Town of Barnstable's website. Jesse, any public comments?
We do not.
All right. Act on the minutes of the September 10th, 2024 meeting. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes? Okay, seeing none, can we have a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion to accept.
A second?
Second.
Second, Bill, thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. All right, I would just like to talk about something before we get the Director of Golf report, and that is the fact that today, members, pass holders of the Ladies League ran the 2024 CUDA Classic Golf Tournament. It was a huge success today. We had 88 people, which is a sellout. The dollars of this particular tournament support local women battling breast cancer who need help with expenses related to their illness and treatment that are not covered by insurance. 100% of the dollars raised of the tournament that we held today go directly to this cause, 100%. Today we had, again, a terrific tournament. All of the finances go to the Women's Health Center, the CUDA Women's Health Center, which is the local branch of this particular organization. Somewhere between $12,000 and $13,000 were raised. Many donations for this event are given by pass holders of the course. And again, the Ladies League is the one that sponsors this. It's really a terrific example of how Barnstable Golf is involved in the local community. Because again, many pass holders donate things that they either have painted or have made. Bottles of wine in baskets, gift certificates to restaurants are donated. Again, almost all of these are local and solicited by the members of the committee, and they do an absolutely terrific job. So we're very proud of this, and again, I like to share these kinds of things with our TV audience to just let them know that the Barnstable Golf program is truly involved with the community of Barnstable. All right, Jesse, the Director of Golf report.
All right, I don't have much because obviously we want to get to rates, but I just have three things jotted down here. First time I didn't show up with anything typed. Bids for the clubhouse are out. They're due by the end of this month. It went out as 10 separate bids, one of them being the actual GC, but you know, plumbing, electrical, HVAC. So bids are due by the 31st. And Bonfire is the software they use where I went in and you can see which, if any, companies have downloaded the materials, so you can see how active it's been. It doesn't necessarily mean they'll bid, and it's been active. I've seen 8 or 10 companies on each one that have at least downloaded the materials, and it's only been out for 5 days. So there's a lot of interest. Who knows what the bidding, yeah, go for it.
No, when you say there are 10 different items,
Yeah.
give me an example of a couple of these, for instance.
HVAC, plumbing, painting,
Okay.
tile, right, every
So every one of these is
every
a
trade,
different,
right.
is a different bid.
Right, and then there will be, one of the bids is just the general contractor, and that will be the person that all those bidders will report to.
Okay.
So we'll have project management on our side of things, the town architect and that, but there will be a singular, we're not gonna have to, as a town, we're not gonna have to deal with 10 different vendors. We're dealing with one,
Okay.
which is,
So how would that work then? If Joe Smith does the plumbing and Mike Jones does the HVAC, who then becomes the man or woman in charge of all of these?
the GC who's bidding.
The
Needs to be the
GC.
one to
So there is
schedule all
someone
that.
is bidding on
Right,
all of it, but that particular company is actually going to be contracting separate companies
correct.
to do the work.
Right. Well, no. They will be overseeing the companies that, I believe, that we select.
Okay.
Right, so it's not necessarily that GC's sub that he always uses or she always
Okay.
uses. It's, okay, you're the GC, here are your 9 vendors that you're
So
dealing
we've
with.
selected those.
You need to create
Okay.
the timeline and right.
Some of those vendors may very well be
Sure.
the sub of the GC who's bidding.
Right.
So,
They might have
Yeah.
teamed up on it in that regard, yeah.
So now the $64,000 question, which many of our audience probably don't know the reference to that, but being 77 years old, I do. Do we have any idea when this will begin?
No. I was told that it's a 3-month process once the bidding is over.
3-month
to-
process.
Award the bid to each of these 10 contractors. So that's November, December, January, so that gets us to February 1st.
Right.
And then in theory, the work could start. Supply chains are better, they're not great. James and I were just told, we were talking about the irrigation project at Hyannis, and we were told by an irrigation design expert, you're 3 years out. 3 years out from breaking ground.
For who? For what?
For the irrigation project we were talking about at
Oh,
Hyannis.
right,
So
yeah.
totally unrelated, but
Yeah.
it's just, that's where things are at right now.
And
So
who would own running that water, the main water line, the larger line up from 132? I wonder who's.
You know what, I didn't see that. Fire suppression, that was one of the bids. I didn't
Because
really.
I'm wondering if that could go in before the ground freezes, that water line.
I don't know how much of that would be an outside contractor, how much would be DPW.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm really, because if obviously it was DPW, it could start right away.
right,
I am not sure.
yeah.
I gotta look into that one a little more. A lot of this stuff is,
You
foreign
probably
to
have a
me.
window, from the time Hyannis closes, what, around Thanksgiving
Yes.
to the first of the year, maybe, where they could still dig
Yeah.
that, without interrupting the cars and.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be an outside contractor doing that work. That's the tough one, because there's an Eversource easement,
Right.
it's coming off 132, which is a state road,
Yeah.
that's gonna be fun. But I guess in theory, the work could start as soon as February. Take that for,
The insurance settlement, is that close to being finalized?
I haven't gotten any updates on the final number, no.
In terms of what our portion of
Correct.
that's gonna be?
Right. And we like to think that that number that we threw around, the 2.95, is on the high end. I think, they do that purposely, obviously, so that, in a perfect world, the bids come in at, 2.5, who knows? But we have no clue what these bids are gonna be. They always err on the high side, for obvious reasons. But no, I haven't gotten an update as to where we stand with Chubb. No.
Were they throwing the 2.5 number around, that's what we thought that would be covered with Chubb, and we would get the balance?
Initially, but now not even close.
Oh, really?
Initially, it was right. It was initially, we thought we would be on the hook for about $500,000. Exactly.
Really?
Now almost other way around. The way I'm hearing it, we'd be lucky to get $1 million.
Really?
We thought every upgrade for code compliancy was supposed to be covered. Even things that have nothing to do with the loss.
Hmm.
You know, reconfiguration of the HVAC, reconfiguration of the downstairs bathrooms, the lift that has to go in, the fire suppression system. We were under the understanding that all of that, we had code compliancy coverage. It's a separate premium you pay. And I think they went back and they found some things that basically they were successful in making a point that no, they're not on the hook for the majority of that.
I think we got a word at the last meeting that we were going to be on the hook for 1.8, the golf program, 1.8 million.
So that would be if the insurance came through with a touch over $1 million. If that $3 million is correct.
Yes, it might not be, but
The bids can come in at 2.5 or 3.2. I mean, who knows? But at least they're out.
okay. Any other questions then? Alright.
Only other couple little things, or as we discussed, early sign-up's gonna start on November 1st, as opposed to, I think last year was the first year we pushed it to November. We'll do the same, usually it was October 1st, we'll do the same thing this year. I'm gonna send out an email tomorrow promoting Divot Day again. I got decent response to that first one, not great. Maybe 10 or 12 people that said they'd be here, and a handful, 5 or 6 that said they'd be in Hyannis. I mean, last year, I don't expect people to RSVP that early. Last year we had like 20 here at least, and probably 12 in Hyannis. So
Send that out again.
I think, yeah, I'm gonna do that
Yeah.
Send that
tomorrow.
out again.
I mean, we don't need people to register, but it's just nice to know,
Absolutely.
you know, are 8 people coming or 30, you know?
When are you doing it?
The second day of aeration of both courses, so a week from tomorrow here, Wednesday the 16th? Yeah. And then 2 weeks from today at Hyannis, so the 22nd. So 16th and 22nd.
And that would just be, come get a bucket of.
You got it.
And then go out.
You get a cart,
Cart,
you know, you probably team you up with somebody, give you a cart, a big bucket of seed mix.
You know, I've mentioned it before that, you know, if there was some seed mix in the shed like here, and you had a bottle, I would
Yeah.
take a bottle out with me.
It's
While
funny.
you're standing around waiting to hit on some
Yeah.
of these fairways and just,
It's funny you say that. I was talking to a cart rep today from Club Car, asking him about how much are we talking to get him on the carts and this and that. And I was talking to him about that exact thing. Is I think obviously this year, you know, by the time I would even be able to get my hands on it, it'd be too late. But for the spring, I'm thinking about getting one of those, just like you had said, one of those holster type, you know, setups. You've seen them that hold
Yeah.
12 or 15 of them, as kind of a dry run.
try it.
See
Yeah.
if they get used. You know, if they start germinating in the bottles, okay. You know, it's a lot. I'm not trying to weasel my way out of it. I'm just saying it's a lot. It requires a lot to keep up with that kind of stuff as short of a staff as we have. But if people are using it and it's making a difference, then it's well worth it. So
I think so.
I'm going to look over the winter and get into what it would cost to, how much extra seed would we need to have on hand. What are the costs of the actual apparatuses themselves? Because we're talking a few grand probably,
Yeah.
but that's well worth it
Yeah.
if you know if they get used.
The Divot Day, Mark, I did it last year with 2 other guys at Hyannis, just to give you an example of something. 4 to 5 hours it took us to do one hole, the third hole. I don't know why I'm pointing, thinking about third hole of Hyannis. The third hole of Hyannis took 4 or 5 hours. That's how many divots there are.
Really. Wow.
So, but it was absolutely worth it.
That's incredible that it would take that long.
Yes, you wouldn't think.
No.
And we're asking if people
You wouldn't
want to do
think.
it for 45 minutes and leave, so be it. You know, we can't.
Yeah.
But it's a lot. And
But
we get a
Even
whole
if you
like
do
that's
it
a
just
good
like
idea.
For tournaments, people coming from the outside tournaments, to have them fill their divots. Any divots they do is a bonus,
correct.
you know,
Anything,
and then
yeah.
empty the thing.
But you just, yeah, they need either on the cart, but a lot of
Yeah.
people do walk, especially I think Old Barnstable, I think a lot of people walk.
That's true.
A lot of the members that play early in the morning, they you know. And I think those are the people that I think would use it more as opposed to,
Right.
you know, people that are just
Yes, the pub, yeah.
down here for a, you know, staying in a hotel. And
Is there a spot on the push cart that something like that could be holstered? You know what I mean?
yeah, I don't know if it could.
I'll look into that.
I
I'm
mean,
sure there's
most
something.
people have their own, so I'm almost thinking, you know, because they're not that big, those divot
Right,
bottles.
it's like a-
I'd put it
yes.
in my bag because I've got a big, you
Yeah.
know.
Probably fit in the cup holder if you had one.
Yeah, then you'd be missing them.
Again, just quickly here, because we want to get to this, we talked about the fact that years ago, we used to have a meeting of the pass holders at Hyannis, because you need a bigger room than this. And I think if we push this idea of just replacing your own divot, because a lot of people are very loyal to these golf courses, and I think it just becomes a thing that perhaps they forget about.
Yeah, but I think James would probably comment, you know, the difference between going to get your divot and putting it back versus the divot mix. I guess it depends on what kind of condition that divot is when it comes
Exactly.
out. If,
Right.
say, if it explodes, there's
Yeah.
nothing to put back.
Right.
Right, but
That's
there
where
are
you-
divots that could be replaced. And if we had the opportunity to talk to the membership at large and really promulgate this idea of leaving the course in better shape than
Yeah.
they found it.
It's not great for the
Anyway.
mowers either. The fairway mowers going over those old dried up divots there. You know?
Right.
Okay, Jesse.
Yeah, just last.
So the,
yeah.
green's gonna be punched on the 15th?
15th and 16th, yes. Not minimally invasive, not pulling plugs. Nothing like the spring aeration. They're not pulling plugs, they're not top dressing. They'll be very playable right away. Yeah.
So Old Barnstable will be shut down?
The 15th is a holiday though, isn't it? Or am I think
It would be the Monday, wouldn't it be? the
Monday's
14th?
the holiday.
Columbus Day.
Oh,
Right,
Columbus Day,
Monday.
sorry, it's the 14th, right, you know,
Right.
sorry.
So yeah, 15, 16 at Old Barney, 21, 22 at Hyannis.
So Barnstable shut down on the 15th and 16th.
Correct.
Okay.
Revenue-wise, as you saw through, we'll call it the first quarter of FY25 after September, doing well, up 150,000 over forecast. That's pretty. It's comforting, but too early in the year to get too excited about that.
What is it over last year? You know?
Great question. I was thinking that as I said it, and I should have known that. It's trying to use my photographic memory here. I'll report back on that, but I want to say through September last year, I want to say September was horrible last year. We lost 15 days. We lost 7 Friday through Sunday days due to rain last September. So I want to say exiting September last year, we were only up 50 or 60. I'm going to say this is 6 figures ahead of where we were last year.
Good.
Yeah, I'll confirm that, but September was very bad last year. It rained every weekend.
Yeah, if you look at the tee times or the usage, it's way up
Yeah.
from last year.
I mean, even this time of year, like, we don't anticipate much action on a weekday in October, but it's been crazy. I know we're only a week in, but it's been solid.
The weather's been good.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of comments on course conditions in a good way. I've been looking, I look at reviews every day. If there are, I check every day. The only, the lack of amenities in Hyannis seems to be the only consistent, negative, besides the bunkers. But we know that. So that's, honestly, it's really all I have.
A question
And
it was generally agreed that playing on Old Barney during the year affected the course
Sure.
and the conditions. How much do you think that has come back now in the conditions, say this September versus,
I think it was fully back by late June.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. I think it affected May.
Yeah.
And outside of that, I think financially it was well worth it.
Hmm.
You know, it was great. Hopefully this is the last time we have to do it.
Yeah.
But I think it was back by mid-June. I think May was what was really affected. You know, that we go to peak rate in mid-May, and Mary and I and Chris and James were a little, you know, a little skittish about charging $100.
That fertilizer doesn't kick in either.
Right.
That's the, you know,
Yep. It takes much warmer temperatures. It's
couldn't even put it down until,
right. You'd be wasting it.
yeah.
Yeah. But hopefully, I mean, we learned, James and Chris learned a lot over this past winter. First time Old Barney being open in how many years? So make this, this time we'll set it up a little differently. We know, what areas are, tend to be wetter than others. They already know that, but they hadn't seen it in a January, February before. So, maybe those par 3 tees move a little bit. Maybe, I don't want to go temps. I really don't. But we might have to, certain greens. We'll see. But it was, financially it was worth it, and I don't believe there was any legitimate lingering damage. I don't think so. People have been saying it's great.
It was wonderful out there today,
Yeah.
absolutely wonderful.
James obviously isn't here, but I do have a small report from him.
Okay,
If
any other questions before we get to the rates, that is, of course? All right, so Jesse is gonna report on golf maintenance as well.
Reading this for the first time, so bear with me. Hyannis turf equipment update. We received 2 greens mowers and 2 rough mowers from TPC. Just waiting on the fairway mowers. I've been told by the sales rep that they are at TPC being set up now. The much needed core collector / sweeper has been ordered from John Deere. Will be here by late October. The organic fertilizer kicked in nicely on the overseeded fairways at both courses. For our upcoming fall aeration, gave you the dates already, we'll be using our Vertidrain deep tines at both courses instead of pulling cores. The roots have improved to the point where the greens can handle it. This will be minimally disruptive to the putting surface, much less bumpy. The aeration will help drainage this winter and encourage deeper root growth. Again, not pulling plugs, not top dressing, so they'll be playable right away. We're planning on aerating multiple fairways here at OBF and using the cores to fix some bare spots in the roughs. We've already done this to the right of the 18th green. Hopefully if the sweeper comes in time from John Deere at Hyannis, we can do the same thing over there. They would punch some fairways just to use those plugs in areas, notably where they put the fencing. Left of 1 green, left of 6 green, try to put plugs down and get grass growing there. I don't know how much I want to get into this part, but he wrote it, so I'll read it. We got some initial estimates for GPS mapping of our irrigation system, as well as design costs from a golf course architect and an irrigation system designer. The golf course architect we dealt with has been doing work for the Yarmouth courses in recent years. What do we got?
He's got the right.
Yeah, he got it.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, we're back. This would be a CIP submission, hopefully using CPC money to get the ball rolling. I think we talked about this last.
Little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so basically there's 3 different people we need to involve and get designs from. We need to pay somebody to come in and map our entire irrigation system using GPS, and so that he can create a file that shows where every head is for buffs. We don't have anything like that. The system's so old. Then we need an actual irrigation design person to give us a plan, and then we need an architect to tell us what we can get away with. Can we get away with not irrigating this turf or this to create these native areas? So, all said and done, you're talking probably 60 grand just between those 3 people for the designs. But we think if we can pitch it to CPC and say, our goal is to reduce water usage by, 20, 25, 30%, then 60 grand is nothing.
No,
Um,
it's brilliant.
Right.
Really?
So, and the watering window would go, we have a 14-hour watering window in Hyannis. That's why you're out there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and it's already going. We could shrink that down to 8 hours, just like here in most courses. So the sprinklers don't have to come on until 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So we're working on that now. That has to be submitted pretty soon. But the 3 people we talked with all seemed like this is very doable. The only downside being the irrigation person did say we are way up against it in terms of lead time, multiple years.
I was gonna say, wouldn't that be a 2 or 3 years out,
Yeah.
probably, project?
Yes.
So it's
because-
the architect that would tell you where you can put the fescue,
Yes. Yeah.
and wouldn't he come first? Wouldn't you have that mapped out first before?
He would work basically hand in hand with the irrigation person.
Yeah.
Okay.
He actually recommended this person that he's worked with before.
Okay.
So they would work together and saying, okay, how about I put a head here? Because like the head, I don't want to get too technical, and I don't know that much about it. James is the expert. But some of these heads they're spinning 360 degrees when really they should only be going 180, 120, 180. But we don't have the system is so old. We don't have the technology to say, all right, we want this head to only do this. So now you're irrigating all this unnecessarily. And that's
So
another
you're gonna replace the heads?
everything.
Like
The whole, the whole
like keep-
system,
Everything.
yeah.
We're talking
Piping,
millions
the
of
pipes and everything?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We have 4-inch pipes. We need 8.
Okay.
The heads are super old and inefficient. They're in spots that they don't need to be. We're talking. Again, the Lynx at Bayberry just did bunkers and irrigation on their 9 holes. And it was $2.6 million. So, I mean, do the math. If we're doing both courses,
Tell me that again for 2.6 million.
9 holes, bunkers and
9 holes.
irrigation.
Bunkers and irrigation.
And bunkers are a big part of the architect. He was asking, he was on, we had a conference call, he was on Google Earth looking at Hyannis as we were on the phone with him. And he asked, how many bunkers do you have? And I said, well, in the last 10 years, we've gone from 60 down to 40. If I had my druthers, get that number down to 15 or 20. So many bunkers we don't need it. And he agreed right away. He said, oh yeah, he said, I could already see 10 that I'd get rid of right away, just looking on Google Earth, and it's not just, we're trying to approach this with an eye, not just from a playability standpoint, but ease of maintenance.
Absolutely.
And that's what we want to tell the architect. We want 2 things out of this. Water conservation, less water usage, and easier maintenance,
And pace of play.
That right. And that's my charge, because I'm sitting in the room with 3 superintendents, and I have to be the one to say, hey, fescue sounds great, but,
Well, I'm talking also about the bunkers eliminated.
Oh, yes. There's a little weirdness with you're trying to conserve water, but if you're eliminating bunkers, that means you're adding turf. So there's a little kind of net loss there. But just to give you an example, like the one thing he said was right away, picture the 10th hole at Hyannis, par 5. There is no reason left of that fairway bunker. There's no reason for any of that to be irrigated.
Oh, absolutely.
Let that be fescue. Just let it grow.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 40 yards off the fairway.
Yeah.
Same on 18 here.
On the left. Correct. Why?
I mean, you
right.
could go.
Why are you watering rough 40 yards off the fairway?
You should.
Just let it be. Hopefully, and if we overseed it with fescue and there's no irrigation, it's not going to get so thick to the point where you can't find your ball. It's going to be that thin wispy stuff because
And
it's
it looks-
all it's
It would
getting,
look
right?
really nice.
It looks
It
pretty.
looks
Yeah.
nice,
You turn on the TV. Every course is doing it.
Yeah.
All the best courses in the world they're all doing it. So that's been a big project of ours over this last week, talking to these people.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, but again, this is going to be this is a 2, 3, 4, 5 year thing we're talking. But
I wonder if the course would have to be closed for multiple months, to.
yes, well, it'd be all. He made it sound like he basically said, I can't promise you that if we started in the fall, it'd be done in the spring. In a perfect world, they start, first week of November,
Yeah.
and it's ready to go in April. In a perfect world.
But the grass isn't growing in those months, and you're gonna be doing a lot of
Yeah.
fixing.
It'd be a lot of just tearing up
Yeah.
You know, the irrigation system obviously has to go first,
Right.
and then you do the bunkers on top of them, and then, you know, the architect would be sitting there looking at this overlay, saying, okay, here's what I want irrigated. And if it's a 20% reduction, I mean, we're talking millions of gallons of water.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're allowed, I want to say like 27 million a year. We've never come close to that. I think last year was maybe 20, the year before that was 14 we used. But let's say at 20 million, I mean, a 20% reduction, you're saving 4 million gallons of water a year. That's huge. You know?
All right, now
So
tell us how we're gonna pay for this.
Yeah.
All right, the maintenance, we're good? All right, Jesse?
All right, so I'm gonna, my thought was I would read kind of out loud what I sent to you in the email, just for the sake of transparency here. But since the last meeting, I went back and I retooled the proposal. Notable changes, basically the increase is now at 8%, which again, we didn't go up last year, so we're talking 8% over 2 years. We added a non-resident Hyannis only, there never was before. And we made kind of a standard rule that moving forward, the non-resident additional household member would match the same as a regular resident adult. Does that make sense? So
No, it doesn't, but I understand what you're saying.
it doesn't make sense as in you don't agree with it, or?
I don't agree with it.
How come? That's why
Well, it
we're
just
here.
seems to me that, you know, residents are paying a certain fee, and if a non-resident is paying the same or less, it doesn't make sense to me. I think you have non-resident additional household member, that's the 1335.
Yes, right. But the first person in that household is paying 1940 as opposed to 1335.
Yeah, that's 32.
No, I understand, but
Right.
I mean, why are you discounting? That's,
I
Why
can,
the discount?
I can ask you why we're discounting the residents at all. We don't get any tax money. Yarmouth doesn't. I could ask that. Why are we giving any residents discounts?
okay, well, answer
I-
the non-resident first. Why are we giving non-residents a discount?
I don't see that, Bill. This was one of my concerns. The proposal that Jesse sent us as the first member of a non-resident family at 1940.
Right.
The second member at 1335. Now, the majority of the people, the overwhelming majority of the people I play with are husbands and wives. And in some way, I think they are the backbone of our membership group. That comes to $32.75, and last year they would have paid $28.50, which means that's an increase of $425. The resident, on the other hand, the first member is $13.35, and each additional member is $9.95. That comes to $23.30, and last year it would have been $2,100. So I have the non-resident family, and again, I'm referring to just husbands and wives now. I know that if there's a son living in that home, it becomes a different thing. But the majority of the people that I play with, husbands and wives, non-resident people are getting about a 15%, $425 above $28.50 that they paid this year. That's virtually 15%. The residents are going to be paying $23.30 this year, $2,100, a $230 increase. So that is over 10%.
It's a lot. But
So,
I think
this
your
is
question was more conceptual in nature, right?
It is. It is. I mean, a resident additional household member at $9.95, that's a 25% discount for that second person.
Yep.
How about a 15% discount? So I'm just saying, you're gonna discount them. And I'm not arguing with the
Sure.
discount, I guess I'm arguing with why 25%? Why not a 15% discount, and instead of $9.95, it's $11.35? Still a bargain. It's still a bargain. and that's gonna add more to your revenue. But,
Again, Bill,
Yeah.
what I'm gonna, Jesse used the word conceptual. I guess I'm talking arithmetic. So it's not, from my
That's why
point of
I
view.
yeah,
tried to
This
clarify.
year, a husband and a wife paid $2,100. So now, next year, they're gonna be paying $2,330. I don't see that as any sort of reduction. That's an increase of over 10%. And even though we did not raise fees at all last year, my feeling is that as far as the rates go, not the rest of the sheet, Jesse, if we just raised 8%,
Right.
I would find that very fair. Now, again, because we're changing some categories here, we have to look a little more deeply into both of them. And as I pointed out, the non-residents will face a $425 increase, which is 15%
But-
over this year at
But
$2,850.
you're not gonna find that deal anywhere else on the Cape.
You know what, I gotta tell you something, I don't really care about that.
Well,
I'm not worried.
they're traveling
Everybody
from all
gets a
over.
great deal, everybody you talk to says this is a great deal. Okay, that's one thing, but that doesn't mean that we should raise people 15% when inflation is going up 5%. I don't see that.
I
The
guess I agree
non-resident
with you for the
people,
residents.
what's that?
I agree with you in terms of the residents of the town of Barnstable. It's the people that travel from Falmouth and Sandwich and Mashpee because it's such a great deal. I don't think you're gonna lose any of those people over 15%.
I think of them as being an important part of the program. Many of those people, in fact, were at the CUDA tournament today, for instance, and I think that's terrific. So I consider them to be an important part of the program, and I think raising them 15% is something that I would not agree with. I know what you're saying
But we're already
about,
there, right? We're already at 15 based on this. You're saying-
based on this.
Right.
That's why I don't know if I'm in complete agreement with this. That's what I'm saying to you, Josh.
Gotcha, sure.
See, I also look at, just availability of tee times. I had my two boys that are big golfers, when we first moved down here, both joined, as young adults, but did it for a year, maybe two, and stopped because they couldn't get a weekend tee time. We couldn't play as a foursome, we still can't.
Jesse, I think 2 years ago, we raised the non-resident fee a significant
And
amount
it didn't
in
slow them down
comparison.
at all.
And did it do anything?
No.
No.
To
So-
the numbers, no.
but
I-
we're talking about the additional person, we're not talking about the
Right.
regular
Well, it's the same.
non-resident. You're talking about the additional, the discount that the additional person gets.
Yeah, the third person, if you will, or the
Well,
the
second,
second.
you wanna keep talking about the husband and wife, I understand that.
because that's
There's a lot of them, right. But it's the additional, it's just that additional
Yeah.
person that I'm questioning, that's all.
Um,
What kind of a discount should that second person get?
You-
And I'm not arguing, I think
Right,
it's
right,
quite
no,
honest.
this is
I-
fine.
This is-
yeah,
It's fun,
yeah.
it's funny because
it's a,
Yeah.
it's
the way
just
the way you could frame it a bunch of different ways. They're getting a massive discount off of 1940.
That's right.
They're not getting any discount off of the regular resident annual pass. They're paying as if they're, you know what I mean? So, and again, the conversation about discounts is,
In a
I
way,
made
This
my-
is all in light of the fact that you were looking to raise additional revenue,
sure,
okay? So that's where I was coming from with this discussion.
we've
And I
also-
knew exactly what you were gonna talk about. And I understand it completely.
But we also talked about, at some point, capping the non-resident,
numbers.
yeah.
numbers.
But as far as like the families, the additional, there's not that many. There's not. I think the only course that does that right now is Captains. They have capped non-residents. There's a wait list. And we are,
And you can't get a tea time at Captain's either.
they're only 37% of the tee sheet. We're 50.
Yeah.
you know, but to Bill's point, we are the only, as far as all the research I've done, we are the only golf course that offers a discount of any kind for a second household member, or, I mean,
So
every other course, a husband and
that
wife pay the
was-
same price each.
Residents or non-residents?
Yeah, right.
I
Every
wouldn't
other course
advocate
has-
that, but
Sure.
I don't know what a 15% discount does to your bottom line versus the 25 that you're proposing.
With this specific one you're talking about, not much, because we have so few of them.
Yeah.
But what about the 995, the resident additional? The resident
Oh,
additional,
yeah.
995 is a 25% discount.
Yep.
Bill wants to charge
No, no,
everybody
no.
more.
Yeah,
but
I know.
No.
Try being in this seat.
Yeah.
But Jesse, let me just address that, please. Again, 2,100 was what was paid this year.
Resident husband, wife,
Yes.
resident couple.
Right.
The family pass, that's the one.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
That's gonna be raised by $425, which is over a 10% raise.
I thought it was raised 200
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, it's,
Goes-
it's 11%. I
11%,
just did it.
11%. I mean, if,
Over 2 years.
we've talked a little bit about 2-year plans, 3-year plans, 5-year plans. Perhaps we ought to look at this in terms of 3 years, as to what it should be. But again, 11% raise for 1 year for the residents, and a 15% raise for the non-residents in 1 year is something that I would be opposed to.
And I was actually gonna say, I didn't want to seem like I was trying to kick the can or as a cop out, but I was gonna say, there's nothing saying why don't, if we left it like this and then hit them with a decent one next year again, to try to close that gap. See what this does. I don't know the actual numbers of how many non-resident, what am I trying to say? Non-resident families, basically, let's
Yeah.
use the word family. I'm not sure how many we have,
Not enough to probably affect.
we're talking less than 5-digit revenue boost with this. We're not talking that much.
See, I don't, again, they're non-residents. They don't pay
Additional-
taxes
yeah.
in Barnstable, I understand that. But I look upon this in terms of, and I hope this doesn't sound corny, the family of Barnstable Golf. So these people are part of our group. And I think in particular, the 15% raise is something I don't think, I just don't think it's fair. I agree with you that this is one of, look at the article upstairs in the Boston Herald, one of the best public golf courses on Cape Cod. And for the price, it's terrific, and everybody feels that way. But that doesn't mean, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, that there should be a 15% raise and an 11% raise in any 1 year.
Yeah,
The
I
non-
disagree, that's
The
all.
non-resident family there were 17 of them last year.
Okay,
So it's not,
It's not a lot of people, not a lot of
Earth-shaking.
people.
right. So okay.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
so at a $400 increase times 17, yeah, you're talking with 7-8 grand. I mean, it's, I'm not poo-pooing that. But again, I have to keep saying it, we're talking resident, non-resident. We don't get any tax money, not a penny. So I could easily make the argument, why shouldn't everybody pay the same like Yarmouth?
Yeah.
I'm not making that argument, but
No, we don't
I
get
think
any
it's
tax.
worth bringing up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with
You
you.
know,
That's part of the reason
Right.
why I'm saying what I'm saying.
Right.
And I wasn't making that argument either, I was just questioning the
Sure,
discount.
Sure.
Why is the discount as large as it is? That's all.
Again,
You
I
know,
think we also have to
You could raise
address,
that 13, I mean, I'm not saying to do that, you could raise that to 1650. That's a 15% discount. Over the 1335 non-resident, additional member.
Okay, so I see what you're saying.
You could raise that to $16.50, which is a 15% discount, or
Which is-
eliminate.
Which mirrors $9.95 to $13.35.
Right.
As far as the right.
But again, that's just discussion. It just seems a 25% discount for additional household members, just seems to me. Especially if you're not, you're talking non-residents. Just seems a lot. Not in the context of how Keith phrased it. I understand
Yeah.
the way he did the math from the prior year. So maybe a phase-in is the way to think about it.
That's where I would lean. I would say let's stick with this, and then next year let's look at, I'll be more prepared coming with these non-resident these metrics.
Does anybody think that the 11% raise, considering the rate this year, and the 15% raise for non-residents, considering the rate this year, is excessive?
I don't.
We haven't gone up in 2 years. It's actually probably slightly under inflation, 11%.
It's still 15%.
Which one are you talking about? The non-
Both,
Yeah.
I'm talking about both,
both.
or if you want to look at either one of them. Does anyone feel either or both is slightly over what you think would be fair?
I think you know the answer.
Talking about being fair
He's fishing.
to our pass holders.
Yeah.
Well,
I
are
think
we
it's-
creating rates based on what's the point of this rate structure? In my mind, it's we need to make enough to pay our expenses.
Totally.
I mean, that's
So what would we
we're
do?
not pricing this based on
fair
perceived
market
value, because
right,
if we
but
were,
it would be
right,
a
4
membership
grand.
would be correct.
Would
If
be-
we were pricing this in a free market system where
Right.
memberships would be triple,
Exactly.
we'd have 30% fewer members, but
Which would be
whatever.
fine with.
Right.
You'd be able to get tea times on the weekend.
Right. If we're not allowed to price things like we were if we were in the private sector.
We don't want.
Quashnet Valley is $2,800.
Yeah.
And we
But-
talked about
but
the
Bill-
purpose of Barnstable Golf, to provide recreational
Right.
opportunities for residents.
Right.
Residents of the town of Barnstable.
I don't remember
Right.
non-resident being in that.
Okay.
Mission statement.
That's a
Mission-
legit.
Right.
That's a legitimate point, Bill.
Yeah.
That's a legitimate point. Let me, perhaps I can just throw this out, and I'm directing it at Jesse. John, how many non-resident couples do we have?
There were
17, I think you said?
17 non-resident
So
families.
say we only raised that by 10%, and we dropped it $100, just to keep it in round figures. That would be $1,700? What does $1,700 mean with a $4.4 million budget?
It's a set of flag sticks.
This is behind my thinking. I've mentioned this before. We have this $4.4 million budget, and the town wants us to have $2.2 million in our reserve fund. And a lot of times, this leaves me a little bit empty in terms of trying to decide exactly how much money we need to raise, exactly how much.
If you
And
wanna
I
see-
am more concerned, concerned is not even the right word. I am more in favor of having equitable increases for all of our members, knowing that non-residents are going to pay more.
Mhm.
And again, it certainly dovetails with Bill's comment. So that's what I'm
But I-
looking for, is an
I
equitable
think you have to,
increase.
Well, what that-
I agree 100%.
but that's
But
saying,
Jesse reported we've been hit with some substantial
Yeah.
unexpected expenses. And the expense budget remains tight without
to
much room.
say you want
So-
increases to only go up with inflation is
Yeah.
to say you're accepting the status quo and you don't care about
Yeah.
improvements. I'm
Right,
sorry,
so,
but
you're right, there's a lot of you know, the mats on the range
All that
are
stuff.
horrible.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, the tees, some of them are 5 inches
all,
long.
all those little things.
It's just right. It seems like there's no money in the budget to make improvements to the conditions here.
Operationally, we netted 50 grand last year. Two
Yeah.
rainy weekends, we're in the red.
Yeah,
I mean, so we're trying to create some fluff here. I hate to say it like that, but we're trying to.
sure.
I don't wanna raise
Yeah.
the rates of non-resident members, I really, I don't want to. I mean, because these people are very good caretakers of the course,
Sure.
those are the people you want. But, if you do have to raise them, you wanna raise them in an equitable fashion.
Again,
Well, I think
equitable,
Jesse
in my
has
mind,
put that-
is not 15%.
Yeah.
That's,
It
I've
may
said that.
not be, but we may need to work towards something that is more
Sure.
reasonable going forward.
We'll see if we left it like this, see what happens to that 17 number. You know, it won't be 17 anymore, it'll be, 40. Because instead of, 17 couples with their kids, it'll be tracked differently. But it's just, it's tough when our charge is to provide affordable recreational opportunities, but at the same time, decades of deferred maintenance.
Yeah,
I mean, we need to increase that reserve fund. And, or you accept the status quo. Forget improvements,
Right.
not happening,
Yeah.
unless we go up substantially. I'm sorry. And the status quo is fine for a lot of people. But the people that wanna see new bunkers and just even the little things like you're saying, I mean, if, I'm not comfortable telling Tom and Mary, yeah, sure, spend $5,000 on new mats spring. Not until at least June, till I know that $5,000 isn't better served somewhere else. It sounds so piddly, but it's tough. The dump truck breaks down, and now we're spending $12,000 on a DPW is nice enough to. Basically, they're getting a new one and giving us their worst one.
yeah.
But we need to spend $12,000 because the body's rotted out. That's out of nowhere. Where do I cut for that?
Yeah.
I mean, you went back to redo the numbers
Yeah.
with the idea of increasing revenue.
To get to I tried to get to that. We had talked about 275 being the So that's
So that's
basically
the
where we got.
mindset by which I approach
Right.
reviewing this.
Part of my reason for this is also your comment in one of these notes that you sent us, Jesse, that considering we could net 116,000, net 116,000 on reducing the
Oh,
tee
right.
times from 9 minutes to 8 minutes, could raise 116, would certainly raise at least 60.
I think I'm comfortable saying we would sell at least half those times.
Yeah, so, and we could raise more, we could sell more of them,
Sure.
considering the popularity and the way Mark is talking about how he can't get on the course. That means non-pass holders want to play here. Plus, the increases you indicated would be a sufficient amount of increased cash for you.
What is sufficient? Define that.
Again, that's what I tried to say, what is sufficient? It's a very nebulous figure.
Right.
But if we figure in somewhere between 60 and 116,000, not that we would reach the 116,
No.
but 60 and it could be 90.
Right.
And then
And then-
increase rates of 20,000, that would seem as if,
Yeah, but I can see, how many times can you go in Monday through Thursday at 7 o'clock and get a non-resident tea time for the next day, because it's not filled. And I think that,
Most of the time, right?
yeah, most of the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So I don't think having the 2 extra non-residents tea time from Monday to Thursday is gonna give you much additional revenue. I think it will on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And And I think that,
Again, John, I was basing that on Jesse's comment that it would, he feels it would generate at least 60,000.
yeah,
I think
I
so.
mean,
Considering the
with that.
popularity of golf, I
That's
was
half
thinking
the
it
time
might
sold.
be.
And that's how that
Yeah.
60 combined with the 210,
Yeah.
that the rate increase, I wanted to get to that number we had talked about of
Yeah.
275. That's why,
Okay.
I
I
think
have
that
one-
60 is reasonable.
One more item I want to talk about. The non-resident fees, 2 years in a row, pretty sizable increases. So, which Keith pointed out and I agree with. I would rather lower the discount for the second person
Mm.
than raise, have another large increase in the non-resident individual.
Well,
but
Lower
that
the
would be a net
discount.
loss.
yeah, that would be.
That'd be a net loss because we only have 17 people who are paying, whereas we have over 100 non-resident members,
Okay,
just regular.
alright.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay.
That would be a net loss on our end.
So there's only
Um,
17,
There's only 17 people who would take advantage of that discount.
okay.
And there's 100 plus people who are paying the full 1940, and it's just them.
Yeah.
It would only affect in today's numbers. It would only affect 17 people. So we're talking short money, and no matter what we do with that number, it's
Yeah.
17 people's worth.
I have two questions. The first one is on the report that we get, it doesn't, or showing the pass holders, it doesn't show a non-resident super senior.
Oh.
Non-resident super senior, John, 1235.
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the monthly report that we get,
Okay.
Oh,
I'm sure that's just an oversight.
Okay, all right.
okay. Second question is on your rate sheet. Is this an error? I see non-resident Hyannis only. Should that be resident Hyannis only?
No, there has been no such thing as that until that's brand new.
Well, where on this is the resident Hyannis only?
Oh, these are only changes. The Hyannis only, we did not pitch any increase to, so it's not listed.
Okay.
Only things that are changing are listed.
So the
So they're not, right, we never had a non-resident Hyannis only. It was
Okay.
just, if you want Hyannis only, it's the same no matter what. It was
So
brought
the-
up last time,
so the resident Hyannis only is gonna stay at $9.95?
unless you tell me you want it to go. I'm not comfortable really doing much over there for obvious reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they have nothing.
Yeah.
And there's 40 of them.
Yeah.
Most of them, 37 of them are non-residents. Because if you're a resident, why wouldn't you just pay the extra,
Yeah,
couple hundred?
yeah.
They're pretty much exclusively all non-residents.
I wasn't saying I wanted an adjustment,
It just looked odd to see the one and not the other.
yes,
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
only changes are listed.
okay.
If the rate's staying the same, it's omitted.
All right, where does this leave us?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the rate increases that Jesse's laid out.
Why are you looking at me?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
I'm not on this committee.
I'm not.
Um,
All right. So Mark has made a motion. Does anyone want to discuss that?
I'll second it.
Okay. So we have a motion to accept the changes that the Director of Golf has made for next season. We have a motion and we have a second. All right? So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I am voting nay, but it passes 3-1.
Just out of curiosity, what do I have to do to get you in a car today?
The non-resident,
Right.
I don't want to beat a dead
The
horse
fit,
here.
right. No, I
A
just,
15%
that's your-
raise.
I didn't know if there's anything else that you were.
15% raise seems not equitable for me, and it's just,
I get it.
that's what I'm thinking about, that's all.
Okay.
If,
The 1940 from the 1885?
The bowl, he's doing it in a combined manner.
yeah, I'm doing it,
The
that
32s.
this year it's 2850,
Oh,
and when you add 1940 to 1335, you get 3275, a $425 increase. Again, just rough figures, it's about a 15% increase.
I mean, when it sounds like a lot. I would sit here and say at $3,200 for a couple, $1,600 a piece, still amazing deal.
It is.
But you're approaching it from
It is.
where it's been, not,
It is.
Again, we can't price it at what it should be. Because, membership would be $4,000
Yeah,
for this facility.
right, all day
Can
long.
we? Yeah. We could have 500 members at $4,000 and it'd be great. We'd be all set.
Well, we've had a vote on this, so that this is what you're going to propose, you're going to submit.
Right, and it's not,
You
Out of
have
my
to-
hands,
You
no.
have to submit this to Chris Canella either tonight or tomorrow morning.
and he has everything, basically that, when I sent you the verbiage that he wrote, that I sent you, basically, he's just waiting to click send. Unless I came back to him and said, hey, we got changes coming.
Yeah.
I think the actual deadline is the 11th. But I told him kiddingly, I'll email you the second I leave the meeting. He said, okay, good. So now I have to. But
That's your fault.
yeah, no. I can take the 90 seconds. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Mark Ells might agree with you.
Right, we know
He
this,
might-
right?
Or he might say, who knows?
Yeah.
Mark Ells
He is-
has
he
the
is
final
us. Yeah.
approval of this, and I think it's important for the television audience to know that as well, that even though we approve of this, the town manager has the final approval on the rates for next year.
And one thing I'd like to do, how I write that letter every year, kind of saying, this year, because of the substantial increases and everything that's going on in the clubhouses, that I think I'd like to workshop it with you before. I mean, I send that in January. So, do you see any meetings coming up? What do we usually skip?
February or March?
Yeah.
Which one, John?
Well, we've gone back and
Right.
forth.
Yeah,
Historically,
Okay.
it's been,
February.
So I think what I'd like to do is come to the November meeting with a very rough draft of that letter. Because I'd like to really have you guys on my side before I send that out to
Oh, no.
1,500 people.
Oh, no.
no, I think we should have a meeting here with you.
I'm all for some kind of spring,
I mean, you could have multiple meetings
Yeah,
in this
it-
row. Do it
throw
in
it out there.
alphabetical order.
if only 40 people RSVP, okay, then no need for the sec. But I'm all for that. The more people are educated, the less frustrating it is for me to,
Yeah.
to constantly be dealing with misinformation and well I heard, but that's a full-time job, But all right, so I'll come with that. And then hopefully James at the November meeting, or maybe December, he'll have a more robust, winter plans situation.
Yeah, and since Jesse brought that up, if people can look at their schedule over the winter,
Oh, yeah.
John is right that we've gone back and forth with what meeting, but we've gone back and forth with which meeting we're not gonna hold, which is tradition for the golf committee, based upon the plans of the golf committee members to make sure we have a quorum and to accommodate our members, quite frankly. We want to make the meetings convenient.
Okay,
All right?
motion to
So the
adjourn?
business is completed. Do we have a motion to
Motion
adjourn?
to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.